Hi.
Sorry, there we go. I unmuted myself.
Oh my gosh, how are you?
Good. Yeah,
All the
great.
way from the West Coast.
I know. It's great to see you.
I know. Well, I saw you plenty. You just didn't see me. I saw you streaming. We were watching your matches in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course in Australia. So you're done with your quarantine.
Yeah, I'm done with quarantine. I'm now back training in Vancouver. So yeah, it's been about a week and a half out of quarantine now.
Wow. In Abu Dhabi, were you in a bubble? Like, how long did you go ahead of time? Did they have quarantine there?
Yeah, so we were in Dubai, and what happened was when we arrived, well, prior to any sort of air travel, you have to have a negative PCR test. And then when we arrived in Dubai, the WTA had us do a PCR test and wait in our room until we got a negative test, and then we could begin to train. And I'm pretty sure that's the protocol with all their tournaments. So yeah, that was what we did. And then again, a couple of days later, we had another test, and then again before we left for Australia, we had to get another test done. So a lot of testing, a lot of negative tests, which is good. It's good to just make sure that everyone's safe and healthy.
Yeah. So I was watching, and oh my gosh, a lot of the players were looking rusty, for obvious reasons. But not you though. You were
I felt really rusty.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I was watching. We're like, oh man, what the biggest difference I think is because you were so excited. It looked like you were so excited to be back on the court.
Yeah, I was really excited to be back playing because through my injury and through the whole pandemic, I hadn't competed in well over a year and a half. So yeah, just to be competing again was such a nice feeling because it's not something like you can do practice matches, but it's a totally different feeling. And then also I knew that if I didn't do well there, I would have no other tournaments and I had quarantines. I was just like really trying to get myself hyped up, and like it meant a lot to be playing, and I knew the consequences of good or bad results each way. So yeah, that's probably why I looked quite hyped up. Yeah,
it's amazing with motivation, right? Because definitely like if I lose early, then I'm like I have this lengthy that extra going in. You looked fit. Did you do a lot of fitness during the time?
Yeah, we did. I have a really great fitness coach here in Vancouver named Sergey, and he works with the junior National Junior Training Center in Vancouver as well. So he knows his tennis really well, and I've been working with him a lot through my injury recovery, and then just in terms of getting myself back to match level fitness. So yeah, we really worked hard on that, and then of course the on-court stuff is sort of supplemental to that. So yeah, a lot of hard work in that past year to make sure that not only was I fit, but like injury prevention as well. So
yeah. So you switched fitness coach because when we traveled to Japan in 2019, right? Since then, because your back was always an issue.
Yeah, and I haven't had issues with my back as well. And I think maybe that's just me trying to be a little bit more on top of things after having really, really major injuries. Like, because I tore the plantar fascia in my foot. And it was really close to rupture, so I got really lucky with that it didn't. But that took pretty much the entire time until I played my tournament to not have any pain and to feel totally fine, normal playing. So that was like really, really serious injury. So that kind of made me like as soon as I got injured, I sat down and I wanted to rethink what I wanted to do with like my training, my physio side of things, my doctor, where do I want to be set up? Because prior I was training in Montreal, and I realized that Vancouver is really important to me, just to have sort of somewhere emotionally and mentally I feel really stable. So and to be with my family at the time, there was a lot going on. I needed to be home to help be with my parents and be with my father. So that sort of made me reset all my training and be in Vancouver. And I think that was actually a really positive thing in terms of for my tennis. Right. So, yeah.
I'm
just going to fix the light. Sorry.
You definitely went through a lot. Everybody with a success, right? They go through a lot. But you, though, I mean, the first time I saw you was 15, I think, in Hilton Head, right? And then of course until now, because you went through the period of just completely no more rackets. I'm done. Dealing with the pressure, and then the kid coming back, and then having to deal with injuries, big injuries, and then that set you back again. And that is why I am reaching out to you, because it's with the audience. That's the age group that I'm working with a lot is between 12 and 17. So they're in that age where from the juniors into development and start playing tournaments really seriously, and life gets complex as you get better, right? And then of course you go to that 17 age where now they're at the crossroads. Do I go to pro? Do I go to college? And then it's a different type of pressure altogether again. And you've felt it all. So that's why I'm like, Rebecca would be the great one to talk to. It's a gift. So you are giving a gift to the audience that I'm gonna be, snippets and share it out there. I hope that's okay.
Oh yeah, no, I'm happy to, because I feel like, I do have this depth of experience that not many people really think about or know about, and then I would like to share and kind of get out there. So this is perfect.
It may take us a few sittings, just because you went through so much, in your life. But obviously, be comfortable to share with what you want to, and the things people don't need to know, and that's fine. But I do want to go back with. I remember, because I hadn't seen you in a long time since you came to Hilton Head, in that period, right? I remembered. When I arrived, I think 4 or 5 days earlier, when we started working together in Japan, and I'm sitting, because Natalie was the head coach at the time, and I was in a transition with you, and I'm watching you, and I'm like, wow, she's been away and she comes back. I mean, you just hit a mean ball. All I could remember was like, when you served, I definitely would not want to be hit by your serve, because it could seriously injure the internal organs. However, you are not winning. And I was like, okay, with a serve like that, do you remember that we had that conversation in Japan? And with a serve like yours, why are you not keeping your serves? And of course you were frustrated, obviously, with obvious reasons, because with a big serve like that, you also know from your technical side, and you want to be winning. Why are you not winning? Do you remember what we discussed?
Oh gosh,
that was a while back. I know that's not.
I know it is a while back. I'm trying to think.
I was doing a lot of my green book. I would like whip out my green book every time we sat together, and I was like, for me, when I saw you at the time, it clicked with me. Like, people have different reasons why they are not getting the win. Under the belts, and to me it was very clear it was a tactical thing, and now it comes
I still use the tactics that actually we worked on that trip.
Don't share.
I won't share, but I still I definitely I use it still, and I've actually used it through the whole trip. I mean, with some flexibility, of course, like even now, I still use it. So it was really helpful to have something to sort of recenter my focus on, instead of like continuing to get frustrated, being like, why am I missing? And then instead just having like these tactics and ideas, both on the serve and the return. The return was really important as well, and that's something I'm still continuing to work on, because it's sort of like the serve is a big weapon, but I got to follow it up with by breaking. So all those tactics were really important on that trip, and actually helped me a lot to sort of recenter or refine that focus, and to it's okay to get frustrated, but not let it become all consuming, I think. So
no, that's for sure, because when you go into the match, and sure, a plan, whatever, but when the plan goes awry, you have, and it's very easy to get frustrated, and once you get frustrated, you're so cloudy and so noisy, in the head. And I remembered, when I shared that tactics with you from we started with the service tactics, this certain positioning, and I literally could see you click. I literally could see, because all of a sudden you had something that you can grasp on. And then when you had something to grasp on with your focus, I was seeing that less of the fear factor, because you're not so much consumed I missed this ball, I made a silly error on the court, and then you just went back on the plan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I think I remember when we were on court, I think it was in Kashiwa, was the one where I made the final. Yeah, when we were working a lot on that, starting with the serve, and then it kind of continued through the rest of the trip. But,
right. Yeah. And then there was another thing, though, was that using your forehand.
Yeah.
I know there was talk. I remember saying to there are a lot of talks out there that the first 4 shots, right? And that was key for you. And then identifying what your strengths were, which at the time I felt like, you knew you had a good serve, but that was it. You had more than a serve. Right? Just identifying what your strengths are. And I feel like a lot of players, good juniors, and some of the pro players, where it's really, to me, surprising when they go in a match, because when push comes to shove, when you're nervous, when you're stressed, when you're feeling under pressure, important point, you have to be able to go back to where your strengths are. And
for sure.
Yeah, if you don't know your strengths, it's hard to come through this pressure. And what was really amazing to me with you, though, is that trust. Can you share a little bit? Because I was only there for 5 days before we reconnected, but then you what made you, because that's an important factor I wanted to hit home with the parents and the players, because they have to trust the person that they're working with them in order for them to come through.
Yeah, well, I knew you were there for me. You traveled all the way to Japan to help me. So it's just, for me, it was natural that I should give you my complete trust. You were giving me all these tools, and you yourself have a playing background too. So and a coaching background, and you knew what you were talking about, but it was more than that. It was just I felt like we connected and we had a good relationship from the start. And yeah, if I didn't put my full trust in you as a coach and what you were saying and believe it, or at least try it, then I would be sort of doing a disservice to myself and wasting, and you. I would be wasting both of our time if I didn't at least try and trust. And so it's not something you can really go have half in, half out, or 1 foot in, 1 foot out sort of thing. You have to go all in and commit to trying something before you can say oh, it either works or it doesn't. So for me, it's I just thought I would do it because what I was doing wasn't working on my own, So yeah, that's what, I don't know, but you do have to have a complete trust in the person that you're working with, whether it's a coach or anyone who's on your team. And it tends to work out better that way.
Well, yeah, the trust is there. You also took responsibility with with your tennis. I felt like I could share with you my knowledge, right? And you have the trust there. But in the end, you're the one that has to have the courage to show up on the court in the match and execute, right?
Yeah.
And it's the trust and the courage has to come from both sides, but more so on you. And I remember, because otherwise it would have been a very long 3 tournaments.
Yeah, it would have been a really long trip. Yeah, but also having an outside perspective, because I feel how things are going for myself, but I can't see what it actually looks like. And I have a bit of a skewed perspective per se, because it's something may feel a certain way, but it might not look a certain way. So to have someone else on the outside, and yeah, like I said, what you were saying resonated with me, being oh, I do have more than just a serve, but why am I not using it? Or I need to focus on these tactics, and it worked. So it's yeah, that's fine.
Well, it worked, and you took advantage of it, and that you took advantage of where I think at the time you were ranked outside of 200. And I remember in the bus, you were so excited because you were like, I'm this many out of the French Open, you know, and it was, and you made that stride so fast. And it was exciting to see you excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I was really excited. And then, yeah, I did get into that French Open, but then I think I got injured at that French Open, but that's a different thing. But yeah, I mean, tennis is exciting to me. It's still exciting. I mean, it's a lot of work though. And like,
It's worth it.
Yeah, but it's worth it. And so, yeah, even now I'm all excited. Like, so I'm glad I sort of have that feeling again after all these years to sort of, it still feels fresh and new and I love it and I'm passionate about it again. So yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. So you went to our last tournament, even with the foot problem. And I remember
it was starting there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I could remember, you know, it's beautiful court, the stadium court. And you know, that morning, I think it was semifinals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you're like, my foot is hurting. And then all I could think of like, oh my gosh, she's in the semifinal and she's playing so well. You were playing Diaz.
Yeah.
Going into Diaz. And then of course Diaz just winning a tournament somewhere. So her confidence is, you know, up here. And then you were playing so well. And then you're like, oh, my foot hurt. And I remember I was trying so hard, just like trying to defocus you, like, okay, you know, let's just deal with this match. Let's just, you know, use your serve and just, you know, get in there. But then dealing with injury, and then you went to the French, and then that was the beginning of disappearing again because of your foot.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess not a lot of people really knew that I was injured so badly, so they thought I just disappeared again.
I know, exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a really significant injury, and I didn't feel it in my first match at the French. It was during my second match, about halfway through, because I was playing, I think it was Rebecca, and now she's like top 20 basically, which is pretty funny. But I was leading, and then I started feeling my foot pain, and then I was just like, oh no, this feels weird. And then yeah, after the match, they saw that there was some tears in it, and I could barely walk. I had a lot of trouble putting pressure on my foot, so I tried to take a break, and then it was like just a sort of roller coaster of like trying to start too soon, and then, you know, I tried to play Granby and I felt something kind of pop a little bit, and then I was still a little bit in denial, I suppose, and I maybe didn't make the right decision in going to Pan Am's, but Pan Am's was a qualifier, so I was like, if I can at least make the finals, maybe I can like somehow get through this, and if I can make the finals, I can qualify. Just, you know, a little clouded judgment. But yeah, during my first match, it just went like snap. I could hear it and I could feel it, and I still played the rest of the match because I was like, oh, maybe I can get through it. And then yeah, for the rest of my Pan Am trip, I had to walk around with crutches, and I came home and I couldn't walk. Had to wear a boot for 2 months. Could barely, yeah, I had to start with like small walks for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, work my way up. And then probably by last summer, so 2020, I could start to play a little bit. So it was basically after Vancouver started reopening during the summer, because everything was shut down with COVID, and they'd closed all the public courts. And then once everything reopened is when I started to train again. So it was a really slow process.
Yeah. So with, you know, obviously with hindsight, we're always smarter, right?
Mm.
But I remember our conversation whether you were deciding we should go to Pan Am.
Yeah.
And then we're like, yeah, go for it, because you have friends in the event.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't regret it at all. Yeah. You know, I would have been upset with myself had I not gone, because now I have that experience. And for me, representing Canada on an international level, whether it's like Billie Jean King Cup or, you know, playing on the Pan Am team, or like maybe like that Olympic dream, like that for me is like the top. So I would have been upset had I not gone. So it was great. And yeah, I had friends competing in different events and athletics, and
that's always
fun. So it was really fun to go down and at least have that experience.
Well, you know, because tennis is such an individual sport, and we don't get a lot of chances with the, you know, these Fed Cup and Team Cups and, you know, Pan Am. So when it does come, and especially when you have friends who are going to be in the event as well, you know, that makes it special. Okay, so with reflection, Okay. Let's say you want to still go to Pan Am. How would you have dealt with your beginning of your injury at the French, which is the last match,
Mhm.
until the Pan Am? What would you have done differently?
Um,
How many months?
so
First off, give a perspective. How many months was that from the French Open when you had that foot thing really
right.
seriously until the Pan Am? How many months are we talking about?
So I believe it was around the end of May, around the 24th or 25th. Yeah, so 24th, 25th of May was when the injury was first sort of diagnosed, and I was aware of it, on a more serious level. And then Pan Am's was the first week of August.
Okay.
So that's a long, drawn
Yeah.
out period
Yeah.
of, and so what I think I should have done was actually taken a longer recovery time at the beginning while it was still really minor injury. And it's just so typical of me because I always kind of not belittle my injuries, but I never think it's as serious as it is.
Mhm.
And I try to rush back because I'm like, oh, if I try to rush, other people are competing, I'm going to lose my ranking. Like that sort of cycle, which luckily this whole process has made me kind of forget, or not forget, but just like cast aside, because my health is more important than that.
Right.
But
Right.
you know, so yeah, because I was trying to rush back so that I could play Wimbledon.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right.
So and that's a really short timeline, and so I got back on court too early, and just I rushed the entire process, and it was just a very start or restart, feel pain, stop, and then wait a couple weeks instead of like 2 weeks instead of waiting a month or something, like, and then restart again. Oh, still feel pain and not really be happy with it, and then that just continued all the way until I thought I was okay in July, but I definitely wasn't. And then
Yeah.
yeah,
It's an athlete's trait, right? So we all think like we can bear this pain, and then your competitors meanwhile are keep on competing, and then that is like a motivation that
mm-hmm.
causes us to come back quicker than we really should.
Mm-hmm.
You're definitely not the other one. I would say when you go and stop like that, in addition to being frustrated, also what it does to your confidence when you come back in interim trying to play.
Yeah, well, you definitely lose your confidence because it's like it feels like every time you just have to like mentally get yourself like ramped up and excited again just to be let down and still feel your pain. So like the confidence just like keeps knocking down and down, which is also not a very healthy position to be in. So that's why maybe take a little longer than you need. Don't rush back. Um, when I was coaching, these are things that I was telling players, and it's not something that I've done, but it's so important. Yeah, just take a little bit longer and really make sure that you're like no pain at all, instead of just being like a really small percentage of pain, being like, I can push through, it's not that bad.
Right.
Because for me, it ended up being really, really bad.
Yeah, I mean, it affected your ranking for sure because
mm-hmm.
we were in Japan to outside of the 200, and then you went inside 150.
I got up to 140, so I was like on the upswing.
Yes.
And then it just like stalled everything, and then actually dropped because of
plummeted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was also really frustrating to me, to lose the momentum. A bit of a confidence drop in terms of that as well. So not just just the whole process was frustrating, and if I could go back, I would have changed some of the things I did, but that's part of life experience. And
yeah. And then it is life experience, one that you have to pay, unfortunately, pay for it, but then you keep learning. At the end of the day, though, and the reason that you met with so much obstacles, so many obstacles, and you still want to play tennis is because you have a very high passion. I mean, tennis is not just coming because you went to school for a while during, earlier on, when you put your racket, up, you went to school and you came right back. You even did canoeing, right?
I was on the rowing team at UBC while I was doing my undergrad. So I was still in some sort of competitive sport, and I was coaching tennis at the side. So I hadn't completely left, which I think helped me to have both things at the same time, and to sort of like have that seed in the back of my mind the whole time. So yeah, and then came back to tennis.
Okay, so now I want you, let's talk a little bit about, let's reflect back, when you were a junior,
Mm-hmm.
because did you have a lot of success? Because I knew you when you're 14, 15 from Hilton Head.
Yeah.
And, I was like, wow, so I didn't know anything about, other than like this girl can hit a ball like
Mm-hmm.
really, really well, and you were very, motivated and passionate about tennis. Give us a sense, share something of your junior years, like up to 15.
Sure. Well, I think I picked up tennis a little bit later, there's pictures of me with a racket in my hand and my parents throwing balls at me when I was really little, but I don't think that doesn't really count. It's like, no. So I really picked up tennis when I was around 9 years old, and then started doing just local tournaments, club tournaments, whatever I could. I was still a multi-sport kid, and then by 12, I kind of started to specialize in tennis because my schedules were conflicting. So I couldn't do my volleyball or my basketball because it conflicted with after school with tennis. And I was like, well, I kind of like tennis more. I'm kind of better at tennis. So I'm going to do tennis. And I also realized I could play nationals and it can take me places. And that was kind of cool. But I think what was really special in BC at the time was we could play in the PNW and the USTA. So I had sort of two pools that I could play in. So I could play nationally in Canada, and I could also compete against players in Washington, Oregon, and that sort of thing. So it gave me a sort of a broader perspective on the small pool in Vancouver was not all that there was. And I was actually not as big a fish as I thought. So I think that was really, really helpful in my junior development. And I'm sure it was the same for Vashik. I mean, he can speak better on that himself, but he was also playing in the PNW. I remember he'd drive down in his little camper van with his parents, but it just gave us more playing opportunities. Yeah. So that was really helpful in my junior sort of progression in terms of getting more competition other than just being playing in Victoria or Vancouver or that sort of thing. So that was really, really helpful. And also my parents were super supportive in terms of allowing me to go play these tournaments, taking me on the weekends to this. Because we had my brother at home too, so they had to juggle his sort of sports in his school and my sports in my school. So yeah, I think that was also incredibly important to my development, was having parents who were on board, but also letting me drive the bus a little bit in terms of it was my decision if I wanted to play or not. So yeah, I think that's sort of a good base.
Yeah, that's a really good base, because you hit home two things is it was something you wanted to do. You were playing in 3 sports, 2 team and then tennis, and you were the one that noticed wow, because I feel that I may be getting into trouble here. I feel like a lot of the parents may be pushing their kids or not being as aware that their kids might prefer to do other things than just not tennis. But in your case, you were the one that's noticed that, right? And with the support.
Yeah, definitely. But I also think having that multi-sport background to begin with really, really helped me in terms of just being able to do a lot of things and understanding how my body worked as an athlete.
Right.
So having an athletic base and then specializing was probably the better route to go rather than specializing. I mean, it's different from person to person. You can specialize at a young age and still be very successful. But for me personally, I think that was the better route, was having something broad and then coming into more narrow focus.
Yes, and that is, I feel like that is underrated, the multi-sports, because that does so much for the coordination of different parts of the body, and then also using the brain in different ways and coping with issues. And I don't believe in specializing in tennis when you're 9 or 7. I mean, there's nothing to specialize, because that is an age of exploration. You need to know, being parents, you need to know, and as a parent, you take your kids to these different sports, and they will come eventually. And as parents, you're responsible to maybe encourage your child as they succeed, are more successful in one thing. And also, you talked about competition. Like when I saw you in Japan, this is my take on competition, right? You didn't come across to me just somebody want to compete. You came across to me as somebody wanted to win. And that's a huge distinction. That's what I believe. Competition, if you're competitive, you're just happy to be there, like hanging with someone, right? But you wanted to win, and that's why you would do anything you can with tactics, whatever. You give it a chance so you can come through and be ahead of everyone, meaning winning. And would you say that has a lot to do with your multi-sports early on, though?
I mean, maybe. I hadn't actually given that much thought. I mean, that's still a bit of a trait of mine to a fault sometimes. My competitiveness is like, I have to win every time, and it's like, it's a little bit funny sometimes, like when it's not related to being in sports, but that's a different topic.
That's some of the next one.
Yeah, but I guess maybe. I think maybe the multi-sport gave me like a understanding I needed to be adaptable in order to win and succeed. But I also think it's also the nature of my family. We're a very competitive family, and we were all very much into sports, and having my brother around and my dad and my mom, we would all play tennis together. And so I had that sort of fight and competitiveness, particularly with the siblings, typical sibling rivalry, where I'd play against my brother and be like, I cannot lose. Like, I need to win. So maybe that's where that came from. But also, like, yeah, in multi-sport, knowing that I'm not just playing for myself, I need to win for my team, like that probably translated over too. So I think it's not just like one particular thing, which I think is quite typical for a lot of people. It's like a compounding of multiple different factors that bring you to a certain point and a certain sort of way of being.
Right. If you could give advice to your younger self when you were 12 and 13, what would you say?
That was such an awkward age. When I was 12 or 13, my best advice is, I think, to be a little bit kinder and more patient with myself. That's sort of, I mean, I still need to give myself that advice. I think anyone can hear that advice regardless of what age, but particularly at that age, I felt like I was constantly comparing myself to other people. And sorry, there's sirens going by.
As long as it's not coming to you.
No, it's not coming to me. There's a fire station nearby. So I'll repeat that. Basically, yeah, to be kind and patient to myself. And don't compare yourself to as many people, or don't compare yourself to other people in terms of like in a degrading way. You can compare yourself to like try to self-improve, but don't try to knock yourself down through that. So that's what I mean by being more kind and patient. And also, my dad gave me really good advice at that age that I don't think really resonated until like a little bit later on, is that like people are so caught up in themselves that they're not actually as worried about you as you think. Like in terms of, you can go do whatever, be yourself, go do stupid things. People aren't as concerned about it as you think. So like, that's the time to like try to do things, and you can make a fool of yourself. It's totally okay. Like, that's part of growing up and learning. So yeah, just be your authentic self through the process, and don't get caught up in the opinions of others. But I mean, when you're 12 or 13, that's really hard to understand until later. But I think that was the best advice that he gave me.
That you nail it in the head. And I think especially hard now, not that it wasn't hard at your time, right? With social media.
Yeah,
that definitely doesn't help things. You talked about, comparing, right? It's the kinder, 12 and 13-year-olds it is in the beginning of teenage years, when they're exploring, things are not as simple anymore. Things are not a playground. So then the comparison is a big factor in, am I prettier? Am I skinnier? Am I faster? Am I, whatever.
Yeah.
It's tough. And then beating up kinder to yourself, at all ages. We beat down on ourselves a lot.
Mhm.
12, 13, or even older, the things that we say to ourselves may not be something that we want actually to say to our to other people, but yet we
Exactly.
say it to ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, I catch myself doing that still, and I think it'll be something, everyone finds themselves doing, and it's more just having the self-awareness to stop yourself, and yeah, having the consciousness and knowing that you need to, rethink your self-talk and
Self-talk,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah. When did you know you want to be a pro?
I didn't really consider going pro until I was around 16 or 17. It was pretty late in the game, because I was just looking at going to university in the US on scholarship, and that was more the route I was going. I knew that being pro was a possible career path, but it didn't really seem tangible to me. It was something I wanted. Like, as a junior, everyone wants to be a pro and to succeed and do well and be number one in the world, and those sort of cliche things. But for me, I thought that going to university was probably a good route for me, because that was something all my peers were looking at. And then I think we have a pro tournament in Vancouver, and that gave me an opportunity to sort of peer into that world and to have some playing opportunities at the pro circuit. And that sort of kickstarted me trying to play more tournaments professionally and realizing that I could do well professionally. So by the time I was in grade 12, I did sign my LOI, and I was going to go to Georgia Tech. And I decided to defer 1 year so that I could try to play more tournaments professionally. And my parents were really supportive of that. And they would travel with me. And then after that year was up, I still signed my LOI. And then soon after, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go pro, because I played the WTA that was in Quebec City. And I think I had my first top 100 win. I believe I was against Jill Cravis, who I actually just saw in Australia, which was really fun. I beat her, and then I was like, you know what, I should go all in. But it makes it sound like it was an easier decision than it was. It was really like I was back and forth, because for me, education is so important, and to give that up was like, I wasn't sure if I was even making the right decision. And my parents were like, either way, it's your choice. We want you to like be 100%, whether you go into college or university in the US. Like, we'll support you with that, but if you want to go pro, we'll support you in trying, and we'll kickstart it for you. And again, my dad had good advice, saying like, school will always be there, but a professional career won't. So like, you need to like, maybe you should just like give yourself a chance and see where it goes. And if it doesn't work, you can go back. You can go to UBC. You can go to Canadian University. Like, it's not a big deal.
Right.
We'll support you regardless. So just whatever you decide, just go all in. And so that was when I decided I wanted to go pro. So yeah.
Well,
It's a really difficult decision.
It's difficult because you had the ability to be successful in tennis. That's what makes it difficult, but that's not the case for 99% of the playing popularity, right?
Yeah.
So I think that people, like you said, when you start tennis 12, 13, or even 11, you're like, ooh, it'd be cool to be in the pro, right? But the road, and I always say this, getting a ranking, yes, it's difficult, but it's really not that difficult, right? It requires money and play tournaments. However, making a living from being a pro, that's what people need to understand.
Yeah, and that was actually part of the discussions I had with my parents. I was like, I don't want to be that girl who's stuck between 200 and 300 and can't get past there and is just like barely scraping by. Like, I want to, like, if I make this decision, I want to know that or not, I mean, you don't know if you're going to succeed, but I want to make that leap. I want to succeed and I want to make a living out of it. So there was that concern that like, maybe it won't be financially viable. Maybe I wouldn't even make like 300, or maybe I'd be stuck at 600. Maybe I could barely get a ranking. Like there's so many unknowns to that, and it's expensive. So,
exactly.
yeah.
That's another point. I mean, you can have, I know so many people who has that ability, but financially though, it's crazy. You know, it's, and some people, you know, maybe they should just put that in the mutual fund stock market, you know, because it does take a lot of money. How much pressure did you feel? And I already know the answer, but I want you to say it anyways. How much pressure did you feel from your parents that put on you?
I think it was just the right amount. They would apply pressure when I needed it in order to motivate, but I wouldn't say they were like I didn't have the feeling that they were putting pressure on me. Like it came from me, but you know, they weren't ever forcing me into anything. It was like yeah, it wasn't pressure. It was them wanting to help me do whatever they could to make me successful. So sometimes there was tough love, that sort of thing, but it was never pressure or wanting me to win, or like, yeah, I never felt that from them.
Okay. Your dad's advice was, you know, you got to have to put both feet in. And that's the type of pressure. Well, hey, if you're going to tackle this thing full on, put both feet in, and we're around there to remind you, you know, to do the right thing to get there, because ultimately along the path, things comes in the way. You know, you can get complacent, you can get really frustrated at yourself and down on yourself, and they're there to tough love probably comes in.
Yeah. So I would say for me that, like, I guess you could see that as some sort of pressure, but I didn't feel that it was pressure. It was logical and rational thinking in terms of having the right perspective on things. So pressure in terms of like knowing that I had to commit to a decision, but it was my decision.
Right.
So
it's normal. Okay, so you know, we're talking, you know, you came to a crossroad. Okay, you have to decide. Bring back to 15, 16, right? That area, those 2 years. What would you, in terms of now you probably have had a lot of success at national level, and as well as, you know, now the pressure is going to be different. Now it's all on yourself, you know. What would you say to your 15, 16-year-old back then?
Yeah, I think when I was 15 or 16, I was so concerned about doing well at nationals and wanting to win nationals and that sort of thing, and not really putting the perspective on it that there's more to tennis than just juniors. You know. So I will admit that I got a little caught up in that myself, which is completely natural, because that becomes your whole world, and like you're in this bubble. So yeah, just sort of like check yourself. There's more to tennis than just this, and like enjoy the process, because you know this is a very short-lived time in your tennis life, your tennis career. So like, it's okay. You don't need to be so narrowly focused on having to be successful as a junior. So.
And you had tremendous support from your parents, is how I felt.
Yeah.
You know, tough love. And I would foresee that was mainly because you were very dedicated. Did you feel, you know, when you dedicate to tennis, just tennis, we're in tennis, right? So for example, I had to miss, I never went to but one birthday party. I never went to any concerts but one.
Yeah.
You know, people call that sacrifice. I didn't see it as a sacrifice, you know, but I was just like, oh, I was doing well. I was traveling. That was my playground. You know, did you feel like you had to sacrifice, or felt like you missed your childhood?
In some portions, yes, I definitely felt like that. I feel lucky that I did have the childhood until maybe my teenage years, and I was able to be a kid and enjoy that. but definitely through like my high school process, it was not the typical experience, I would say, because I was going to school half days. I was already starting to travel, whether it was, you know, on weekends or I would miss school sometimes. So yeah, I would never go to like, I don't know, I missed a lot of birthdays. I was never invited to like the high school parties or anything. I really didn't have that many friends in high school because I mean, I was only there half the time. Um, yeah, just there were a lot of things that I felt that I was missing out on. And maybe I did hold a little bit of resentment to that because it's like, I want to be normal. I want to have all this. Now I don't at all. But at the time I felt, yeah, I felt like I was missing out on so many things that were actually not that important in the grand scheme of things. But it's the feeling you have when you see other people, or I would see some of my friends out going to concerts, like you said, and it wasn't until I was, I think, I had stopped playing tennis during that first period when I was like 21 or 22 was when I went to my first concert. I was like, wow, this is awesome. So, you know.
Yeah, it comes with the territory.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, it comes with it. So who were your friends in your teenage years when you traveled, you know? Who were your friends?
I mean, through tennis, whether it was like, the junior tournaments locally. I had some friends through that. I had some friends that I kept from elementary school as well. My best friend was actually, she's a professional actor. So she kind of had a similar but different, you know, life to mine in terms of she was very focused on her professional acting. I was focused on my tennis, and like we really connected on that. So that was how, those were kind of my friendships as a junior. But I also realized that all my friends are somewhat athletically inclined. So we're all very athletic people and all very competitive people. So it was nice that I had something in common with everyone, regardless of whether they knew tennis or not.
Right. It's probably the mindset, though. Mindset of athletes are different.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, and it was like just having a base level of understanding of what I was doing and why I would travel so much, and like all the training I was doing, it was like, yeah, it was just normal.
Yeah, and I would bet, like, you know, if you have, you know, your friends in other sports, and when they, not even if, for sure when they go through frustrations, depression, or hard times, pressure times, you know, things are not going well for them, you can relate, and that's when you actually can help them as well, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And so regardless of knowing the specifics of the sport, there is a broad general understanding of knowing competition and the ups and downs of that, and supporting each other through that.
Yeah. Wow. You know, Rebecca, it's so good. Thank you. No, it's so good, because that's what, you know, we need to get the words out there and helping people understanding it's not tennis. While it's fun when they just started, it gets very complicated. And you have provided insights to help the players as well as parents to just really maneuver the pathway, you know, and that's what I'm trying to do, you know, is to bring information out there, because hopefully this will save people money. But, you know, there's a lot of money that can just be thrown out the window and then just go zigzagging.
Yeah, for sure. I think also having my time off away from tennis really helped me gain a lot of perspective on the junior side of my career and tennis in general, and appreciating a lot more, because I know that I can have a normal life, and all these kids can have they don't have to play tennis. They can be successful and happy doing other things too. But it's like the passion and love of the sport that can take you through that, and you have to sort of reset and remember that.
Yes, and resetting the mindset and the focus, you know it well.
Yeah. Oh, and the mindset and the focus is the primary thing. Like I always feel like whether I'm clicking with my tennis or not, like the physical side of things, that's sort of like a secondary. If I can get myself in the right emotional and mental mind state, I will most likely be successful. Like if I'm in the right place and I'm feeling good and I'm happy, the rest kind of just like will click. So.
Yeah, and I, you know, last week I was did you get to meet Anka? I don't know if you ever met Anka.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So when I started work with Anka, last week's session was all about, my first with you was tactics. That was right.
Mhm.
With Anka was just having fun.
Yeah.
Because that was hidden so deep that she was not having fun anymore. I had to unlock that, and it took a while.
Mhm.
It was hidden behind a lot of pressure. It was like bricks and bricks over, on top of it, right? With the pressure and the self judgment and the, not being cruel to yourself, and we had to really lift all that up. So just, fun is underrated, and that's something that I'm, speak very highly of, and really go after. You got to have fun what you're doing.
Oh,
Bottom line.
always. Yeah. Yeah. Even if there are moments where it's not so fun, like it's not going to be fun 100% of the time, but in your macro sort of perspective of things, it has to be fun. Yeah. You have to be enjoying what you're doing. Otherwise, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, move on. If you're
Yeah.
not, just move on to something else. So,
Yeah.
well, Rebecca, thank you so much. I know I'm going to be calling you again for another session because there's
Sure.
just so much in
Yeah.
there.
No, it's fun. I want to be able to give my perspective to kids and stuff. And yeah, like even when I was coaching, that was kind of a fun part of.
Oh, I know you're a
Okay.
fabulous coach. I can't wait to, but I mean, I can wait. But you still got your journey as an athlete, go there first. But you just, you have an amazing pathway for you.
Yeah, and like for Canadian tennis too, I want future generations to succeed, whether it's professionally or recreationally or just whatever. Like tennis is great. I want people to have it for life.
For sure. And then, with the COVID-19, of course, tennis just have been thrown in such a big pool of mess there. That is going to be our next conversation, because that would be so fun to talk to you about that.
Oh, for sure. And just generally, I've been talking to some people about, like, I'm really curious to see how the development of players will either be stagnant or improve, or what this whole time is going to do to the younger generation, the next generation of players. So.
And I do have an idea how to, because I don't think, I feel like when tennis comes back, it's not going to be soon, it's going to be a few years. It cannot be the same as it has always been. Something has to change, has to give, the lack of, for starters, the lack of finance. I mean, tournaments, the whole tournaments, you need money. And then you need competition, that whole thing. Let's have another conversation, because I have an idea of that development, the new wave of that tennis, how to get tennis back on the map, especially for Canadian tennis. So let's connect again another time.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So have a great day. Have a great week. But I'll reach out to you again soon.
No, thanks a lot. That was really fun. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Cool. Yeah. See you.
Bye.